You're listening to Echo, thoughtful conversations for curious minds.
Have you ever been utterly certain about something? A person's intentions, a memory, the reason you made a choice, only to discover later that you were completely wrong? I don't mean a simple mistake, but a deep, disorienting wrongness that made you question your own eyes. It's a strange, almost vertiginous feeling, as if the ground beneath you turned out to be painted on. I've sat with that feeling more times than I can count, and each time it whispers a quiet truth we don't want to hear. Your brain is not a window, it's a storyteller.
We grow up with this unspoken assumption that our minds are faithful recorders of reality, that we see the world as it is, remember events as they happened, and make decisions based on rational thought. But science and philosophy tell a very different story. The brain's primary job isn't to show you the truth. Its primary job is to keep you alive, to conserve energy, and to construct a coherent sense of self. And to do that, it tells you lies. Small ones, big ones, daily ones, so seamlessly that you rarely notice. These lies have names in psychology: cognitive biases. They're systematic patterns of deviation from rationality and judgment. And they're not rare glitches. They're a fundamental part of how we think. Today, I want to gently walk you through three of the most pervasive ones: confirmation bias, negativity bias, and self-deception. Not so you can point a finger at others, but so you can begin to see your own mind with a little more clarity, a little more humility. Because understanding these hidden deceptions might just be the most honest thing you ever do.
Let's start with one that shapes almost every opinion you hold. Imagine you're scrolling through news or talking with friends about a topic you feel strongly about, a political issue, a lifestyle choice, a belief about relationships. Notice how certain articles seem insightful, while others feel obviously flawed. Notice how some arguments stick to your memory, while others slide off. That's not a coincidence. Your brain is curating reality to fit the narrative you already carry.
This is confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. Psychologist Raymond Nickerson described how this bias operates even in highly educated people. We cherry-pick evidence, we ask leading questions, and we disproportionately weigh data that supports what we already think. The most unsettling part? This process feels like genuine objective reasoning while it's happening. You don't perceive yourself as biased. You perceive yourself as finally seeing the truth that others are too blind or stubborn to recognize. Historically, confirmation bias has worn 1,000 different masks. The Catholic Church's resistance to Galileo's heliocentric model wasn't just dogma. It was a collective brain clinging to a comfortable cosmic story. Closer to home, think of a time you had a bad feeling about someone. Every ambiguous gesture they made became proof you were right. Their kindness felt calculated. Their silence felt hostile. Meanwhile, you ignored or dismissed anything that contradicted your suspicion. You weren't being malicious. Your brain was just running its default program, seeking coherence, not accuracy.
But why does it do this? The cognitive load of constantly questioning every belief would be paralyzing. Evolutionarily, once we formed a mental model that helped us survive, say, those berries are safe, that tribe is dangerous, it was safer to stick with it unless overwhelmingly contradicted. The brain conserves energy by resisting change. Admitting you're wrong is metabolically expensive and emotionally uncomfortable. So instead, your mind subtly edits the world to stay consistent. The result is that we live in personalized echo chambers, not just online, but inside our own heads.
Now, if confirmation bias is the mind's way of clinging to comfortable stories, there's another bias that makes the world seem darker than it truly is. Think about the last time someone gave you feedback. Maybe it was mostly positive, 10 compliments and one gentle suggestion. What replayed in your head at night? That single criticism. Or consider how easily a beautiful day can be ruined by one unpleasant interaction, while 1,000 pleasant ones fade into the background. This is not a personality flaw. It's a neural architecture. Negativity bias is our tendency to give more weight to negative experiences, information, and emotions than to positive ones. The psychologist Roy Baumeister, along with colleagues, famously argued that bad is stronger than good. In their research, they found that negative events are processed more thoroughly, remembered longer, and have a greater impact on our psychological state than equally intense positive events. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes grim sense. Missing a food source might cost you a meal. Missing a predator might cost you your life. Our ancestors who paid more attention to danger survived to pass on their hypervigilant genes. We are their descendants, living in a world of relative safety, but still scanning for tigers in every sideways glance.
Neuroscience backs this up. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection hub, reacts more quickly and strongly to negative stimuli. Faces expressing anger pop out from a crowd more readily than happy ones. Negative words grab our attention faster. Even the brain's electrical activity, measured by event-related potentials, shows larger spikes for negative images. We're wired to spot the crack in the ceiling before we notice the art on the walls.
And what does this do to our daily lives? It makes us overestimate threats and underestimate our own resilience. It makes criticism feel more true than praise. It makes a single failure feel like a permanent identity, while a success feels like a fluke. Think of a time you gave a presentation. If one person in the audience looked bored while everyone else was engaged, your brain zoomed in on that one face. That's negativity bias, painting your reality with shades of danger. It's also a major fuel for anxiety and depression as you compile a mental catalog of all that's wrong, blind to the good that coexists.
But perhaps the most unsettling of all the mind's deceptions is not about how we see the world outside, but how we see the person inside. The person you think you know best, yourself, is also being narrated by a brain that edits, omits, and fabricates without your awareness. This is self-deception, and it's perhaps the most sophisticated lie of all.
Self-deception is the process of distorting reality to maintain a preferred view of oneself. It's not conscious, cruel lying to others. It's the quiet, internal spin that turns mistakes into misunderstandings, selfishness into necessity, and failures into the universe's fault. Social psychologist Elliot Aronson proposed that we're driven by a need to reduce cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable tension when our actions clash with our self-image. If you see yourself as a kind person, but snap at a loved one, the dissonance stings. Your brain can either admit you were unkind, which is painful, or it can reframe the event. They provoked you, you were tired, it wasn't the real you. Guess which path it usually takes?
The most striking evidence of self-deception comes from split brain research by Michael Gazzaniga. In patients whose corpus callosum had been severed, the left hemisphere, which houses language, would often confabulate explanations for actions initiated by the right hemisphere, which it couldn't directly perceive. If the right brain was shown a command to stand up and the person stood, the left brain would immediately invent a reason. I wanted to get a drink. The storytelling was instantaneous, seamless, and completely false.
This suggests that one of the brain's core functions is to act as an interpreter, weaving a coherent narrative, even when it lacks the real script. We don't just tell stories about the world. We tell stories about ourselves, and then we forget we're the author.
So you might wonder, if my brain lies about the world, overemphasizes the bad, and fabricates my own motives, what's really real? Is there any hope of seeing clearly? The ancient Stoics understood this dilemma. Epictetus taught that we are not disturbed by events, but by our judgments about them. He urged a pause between impression and reaction, a space where we can ask whether an appearance is true. That pause is where freedom lives. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy echoes this. By noticing automatic thoughts, we can begin to challenge cognitive distortions. The first step is recognizing that the thought itself is not a fact.
Mindfulness, too, offers a way to observe the mind's storytelling without immediately buying the tale. When you feel that rush of certainty, that flare of outrage, that heavy cloud of self-justification, you can step back and watch it like a passing weather system. You are the sky, not the storm. This isn't about becoming a detached robot who never trusts any thought. It's about cultivating a gentle, curious doubt, a humility that knows your view is always partial, always filtered, always incomplete.
I find something deeply liberating in this. If my brain lies, then the harsh voice of my inner critic isn't necessarily true. The catastrophizing thoughts at 3 a.m. aren't prophecies. The confidence that I'm right and someone else is wrong isn't a reliable signal of actual correctness. It means I can hold my beliefs more lightly, love them without letting them blind me. It means I can listen to others with genuine curiosity, because I know their brain is spinning narratives too. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other see the blind spots.
Think of the last time you argued with someone you care about. How much of that conflict was about facts, and how much was two brains defending their self-constructed stories? Imagine if, instead of fighting for your version, you paused and said, I might be seeing this wrong. Tell me your view again, and I'll really listen. That's not weakness. That's the most courageous thing a brain wired for certainty can do. There's also a profound compassion that emerges. When you understand negativity bias, you can be gentler with yourself on a bad day, knowing your brain is just doing its ancient survival routine. When you see confirmation bias in others, you can recognize it without anger, because you share the same machinery. And when you catch yourself in self-deception, you can smile and say, there goes my interpreter again, weaving a flattering tale. That smile might be the beginning of true wisdom. So here we are, sitting with the quiet knowledge that our most trusted instrument is a magnificent liar. It's a humbling place to be. But perhaps it's also the most honest place we can stand. The goal isn't to rid ourselves of biases. That's biologically impossible. The goal is to see them, to name them, and to hold them with a tender, almost playful awareness. Because in that awareness, we're no longer fully trapped inside the lie. As we move through our days, flooded with information, confronted with choices, tangled in relationships, we can carry this simple, unsettling, beautiful question. What if, right now, my brain is showing me not the world as it is, but the world as it needs to be to keep my story intact? And what might I see if I allowed just a crack of uncertainty? The truth doesn't always feel good. It's often less tidy, less flattering, less safe than the stories we spin. But maybe, just maybe, it's the only thing that can set us free from the quiet prisons.
So I'll leave you with that question, not as a conclusion, but as a companion for the next time you feel absolutely certain, or utterly devastated, or proudly self-righteous. Is this the truth? Or is this a story my brain is telling? And if it's a story, who would I be without it? That gentle space of not knowing, that's where real seeing begins.